informal portion of this evening. Welcome and thank you for coming today. I'm Lorna Gillens of the Office of Consumer Service at the Department of Public Service. I work in the Outreach and Education section. Before we begin the public statement hearing, I would like to provide a brief overview regarding our rate setting process and also the Massena Electric Department and staff of the Department of Public Service joint proposal. The Public Service Commission rate setting process involves several steps which I will briefly describe. Usually, the utility submits a filing to demonstrate why they need a rate increase. Department then assembles a team, of the different disciplines within the department, and that team develop the position and counter proposal if needed. Also, as part of the rate setting process, other parties or interested groups can become parties to the case. Participants in the case may negotiate a settlement of issues and submit a joint proposal for review by the Commission. Cases are conducted in an open and public process, such as a public statement hearing, and the Commission must render a decision within 11 months after a rate case is filed. Massena Electric submitted a rate request filing on May 29, 2015 to demonstrate the need for a rate increase. The company proposed a one-year rate plan for rate year May 1st, 2016 to April 30th, 2017. The Department of Public Service staff team completed an analysis and recommended modification to the filing request. Department staff and Massena Electric reached an agreement for a one-year rate plan. The joint proposal seeks to increase Massena Electric revenues by $857,227 in the rate year. The revenue increase comes from an increase to the fixed monthly charge for the residential and small general service classes and adjustments in the energy and demand charges for all service classes. The rate plan also includes a phase-in over 4 years of a new two-part supply charge to better align the cost of supply for residential customers who use more than 1,500 kilowatt hours per month in winter months. The Commission encourages public participation in rate proceedings. Today we are seeking public comments on the joint proposal. Comments can be provided right after this informal session at 7 o'clock or somewhere thereabout. However, there are other ways to provide comments if you prefer not to speak on the record tonight. Comments are also accepted via internet on the Commission's website, that's www.dps.ny.gov, under case number 15E0357. You may also call our opinion line at 1-800-335-2120. And also, you can also provide comments in writing. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight. And I'm going to turn this over to Massena Electric, who will give you more in-depth information on the proposal, the joint proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm almost certain I know everybody in the room. I'm Andy McMahon. I'm the general manager of Massena Electric. I'm going to go through things pretty quickly because we went long this morning. We've got or earlier this afternoon. We've got a lot of information to go through, and we'll try to answer any questions as we go along. But we are trying to push to get done by 7, so that those of you who want to make a public comment at 7, we can stay to that schedule. There's our service territory. If you're here, I'm guessing you live in that service territory. As background on Massena Electric, I think most of you know we were created in 1981 when we condemned our system from Niagara Mohawk. When I say we, I mean the town of Massena. We are still owned by the town of Massena. So we are still community owned, even though we serve beyond the town's borders into Louisville, Brazier, Stockholm, and Norfolk. Thank you. When we took over, there was an immediate 25% decrease because we had the benefit of buying a lot of our power from the New York Power Authority. In 1981, that equated to about a 25% rate reduction. In 1991, Massena entered into agreement with New York State Electric and Gas, and the purpose of that agreement was we had an allocation of power from the Power Authority, but routinely we were going beyond that and we needed to buy supplemental power. The cost of that supplemental power when we purchased it from the Power Authority was much higher than what we could get it from New York State Electric and Gas. So when we made that switch in 1991, that equated to about a 16% reduction. And then in 1997, rates were reduced again, that time by 3.5%, which is where our rates have stayed. And just as a point of reference, since 1981, inflation has gone up by 160%, so $1 then is about $2.60 now. More recently, our financial position at Massena Electric is this. We've lost $224,000 in 2013 and $85,000 in 2014, with net income averaging about $30,000 a year. The board has an auditor come in for a variety of reasons to check our financials every year to make sure that we're implementing best practices, that there's no malfeasance, and there's never, if we had one adjustment, we've never had an adjustment. So I think we're doing well from an auditing standpoint, but our auditors have made it clear that the financial path we're on right now isn't sustainable in the long term, that we had to do something to get back to the recommended return on assets. So what the board did, based on the recommendations internally and from our outside auditor, was we retained the services of Frank Radigan, who does this sort of rate case for municipals. And I'll let Frank make his explanation of what we get your sales pitch. So explain what was done and why it was done, and give you further background.
I have to stand here by the computer, so can everybody hear me? You can't, just like church, there's plenty of room up here. So I used to work at the Public Service Commission, or Department of Public Service, and instead of just working in New York, now I work around the country. And I do help a lot of the municipals. It's the one public service I do. But when we look at the expenses of MED, everything is going up. In the last 35 years, if you go through the math, they've reduced rates by about 37%. And the revenues have just basically, the rates actually have just basically either gone down or stayed the same. So when we look at it, materials and supplies are going up, maintenance is going up. North American Electric Reliability, that's federal, or not federal, it's utility governance on making sure there's reliability. Those costs are increasing to make sure that the system's running well. Pension, health insurance, and labor costs, which are the biggest costs for the utility, keep going up and up. So in order to get back to profitability, recommended an increase of $857,000 or about 6%. The PSC staff, Department of Public Service, put a team together of lawyers, accountants, engineers, and took a look at that. They, over the last 8 months, issued approximately about 100 discovery questions. They came up, they did an on-site audit, went through all of the books. There was a lot of discussions of what the answers to discovery meant, what those details were. And they went through their own analysis, made a lot of adjustments, but at the end of the day, they agreed to recommend to the commission that the utility get that 6% rate increase. But by the way, I am going to go through this because I am worried about the time. I don't want to go overboard, but I do want to make sure that we answer all your questions. So if you have any questions whatsoever, just ask them. This is the proposed rates. The important piece of information on this is that the current customer charge for the residential customer is $5. The agreement in the joint proposal is that it would increase $1 every year, 6, 7, and 8 over 3 years. We did a calculation that the fixed cost of basically just sending out bills and operating and maintaining the system was about $12.50. Just bringing it up to 8 doesn't even recover the cost. We still have to recover some costs in the energy charge. But increasing the customer charge by that $1 per year also results in a small decrease in the energy charge. In the commercial class, again, increasing the demand charge to collect the fixed cost. The proposal is to, one, for SC4, get the energy rate, which everyone thought was too low, at least up to the base cost of energy, and then put the rest in the demand charge. And then for the commercial, everyone wanted to increase the demand charge a little bit to increase the recovery through the fixed cost portion. That basically helps the utility on a cash flow basis, because even though you make most of your sales during the winter, but you still have all those labor costs during the summer, so you want to have good cash flow. One of the most important aspects of the rate case was the rate design. I was hired to do 2 things. One was to look at the rates, but also to look at the, to do a cost of service study, which means you go out and you look at what the individual service classes are doing and how their energy use relates to the overall profitability of the company. And what we found by going out and putting load meters on statistically important number of customers, we found out that rates need a major realignment, especially the residential rates. Looking at the load, the results of the load study indicates that heating load is driving all growth. Customers use electricity for heating their home, and what the board decided was they should see some of that cost in their bill. So we wanted to come up with a rate design where the customers who use electricity for heating purposes should see more costs in their bills. And because they're underpaying their fair share, that means the customers that don't use a lot of energy are paying too much. So the small customer is subsidizing the big customer. The system peak and the sales are being driven by the heating load. The winter sales are very, very high. It's primarily in the residential class. The vast majority, I would say, is in the residential class. And the numbers themselves tell the tale. Average residential customer in Massena uses about twice as much as a Niagara Mohawk customer. And 1/3 of the residential customers in the bill are for sales over 2,200 kilowatt hours, where the average customer in New York uses about 700 kilowatt hours. So there's a large disparity in the amount of energy that is being used by some electric customers up here. This is just a stack bar chart showing how customers use. You see there's about 8,000 residential customers. About 25% of them don't use a lot of energy. Some use some over time, which is about 4,000 or 5,000, but there's some customers that use a lot of energy, and it's always being driven during the winter period. Wrong way. This is another graph, it's basically the same thing. This is total sales to the residential class, and you can see the winter load at over almost 17 million kilowatt hours is about 2.5 times the summer load. So there's a lot of customers using electricity during the winter time, and those customers, as shown by that yellow bar graph, are using a lot of electricity, which indicates, again, heating load. This is the average residential load over time, and it's just been increasing and increasing. The main reason for that is that Massena's rates have been stable while the cost of natural gas and the cost of oil have gone up. So electricity becomes more attractive source against other heating fuels, and customers are switching over to use electricity for heat. This is a regression analysis based on the actual load conditions at the utility, where you can see this is wind chill, where the two biggest components of using any energy source for heating purposes is both temperature and the wind. So for 7 hours you heat up your house, the wind starts blowing and it blows all that hot air right out of your house. So the wind chill is an important factor. But as you can see here, as it gets colder and colder, the load of the utility keeps increasing. And that's all because of those customers that are using electricity for heat. Now, when we look at the rate design for Massena, there's a hydro allotment that's come from Niagara Falls, which is fixed. And the energy comes from that is relatively, basically constant all through time. But when we look at the sales for the utility, residential sales have increased 31%, while the sales to all other customers have increased only 10%. That again indicates that people are using electricity for heating load, and it's essentially because they're not seeing any price point on what it really costs to buy that electricity. The reason that's important is because all new sales are not met with hydropower, but they're met with what's called supplemental power, where Massena has to go out into the open market and buy power at market-based rates. And since 2002, that bill has gone from essentially $3 million to $9 million. But the way we recover those costs is what's called the PPAC, and right now that's being done on an average basis, and that's why the small customers that don't use much are paying for those customers that use a lot. Because those customers that use a lot are not seeing the true cost of what it costs Massena to buy that power for them. So what the utility did was recommended a new rate design, and coming out of the joint proposal, it's only going to apply to residential customers. It's going to be two parts. The first part is going to be 1,500 kilowatt hours, which is essentially what we're trying to say is the hydropower that gets shared by everybody. But anything above that 1,500 kilowatt hours is going to be charged a supplemental power rate. This is going to result in big rate impacts for some customers if you're using, 15, 20,000 kilowatt hours. So in order to mitigate that, the joint proposal is going to phase it in over 4 years. But the end result is that the low usage customer is going to see a savings, and the large customer is going to see bill increases. Again, this is from a historical basis. Again, because Massena's rates have stayed so low over time, the amount of supplemental power being purchased keeps increasing every year because that hydro basically doesn't change. The only difference you see in the hydro is how much water is going through the dam over at Niagara Falls. And this is a good illustration of the cost of that supplemental power. It used to be cheap because there was some long-term contracts. As time has gone on, Massena is more exposed to the market prices, and the market prices fluctuate with the price of oil, the price of natural gas. Jeff, you want to talk about energy efficiency? Now, just to introduce this slide, part of coming out of the joint proposal is we recognize that there's going to be increases in customer bills. So Massena's agreed to try to do, put new programs in place to try and ameliorate that.
Frank indicated there is some additional wording in the joint proposal about programs, but to date though, Massena already does offer energy efficiency programs to our customers at both at the residential customers, to landlords and commercial industrial customers. We refer to it as the energy makeover. The program's been in place since 2011. I do have some brochures up here for each of the 3 categories that we offer. Some of you that are in the room have participated or at least had a audit done of your facility. That's the first step. And then in that audit, there's identifies improvements that you can make to help lower your energy consumption. Doesn't necessarily mean electric. They do look at the whole envelope, but the benefit you would get from Massena Electric is any improvement you did that reduces your electricity usage, be it on the bill credit. For the last 4 years, 5 years might be now, we've done a low-income program where we have given out weatherization kits to anybody that's approved or qualifies for the Home Energy Assistance Program, HEAP, which is an income-based program. Those kits are at our office, and customers can come in and get those. We usually distribute close to 400 of those a year. As part of the rate proposal, though, there is an agreement that we will enhance, specifically it does say enhance the low-income efficiency programs. We are intending to look at all of our programs, but as part of this agreement, though, we are going to set aside $50,000 specifically annually to help mitigate rate impact on the low-impact customers. To date, we've put $500,000 aside that was used by all customers. This will be in addition to that money that's already been put aside, and within 90 days of this being completed, we'll have filed a plan with the commission on what we intend to do with that in August.
And so, just to make a process check, we don't want to stop anybody from asking a question. Jeff and I are always just looking at the clock. But if anybody, does anybody have any questions on what you've heard today?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a couple questions. At the 115 kilowatts you have
1,500.
or 1,500 kilowatts per month you have, how many more houses can we build to receive that? I mean, how many more customers can there be? So if another 100 houses were built, they're also going to get the 1,500 kilowatts.
They're all going to get the 1,500.
Okay, so is there enough to go around to provide for 100 more houses?
Yeah, what would happen in that situation is, let's say there was 2,000 houses. At some point in time, you may have to go back and revisit that 1,500. It's still a good number. Because everything's always changing, energy efficiency. The LED light bulbs are making a huge impact on energy usage, not only here, but around the country.
What is the present gap? I mean, how many more customers can you have to allocate 1,500 kilowatts?
Well, the tough part is it's going to depend on everybody else's consumption. As I showed in the one graph up there, we have 100 customers that use 8,000 kilowatt hours a month. That's 800,000. We have over 1,500 customers that use less than 500. That's only about 3,000 customers. So we have a lot of customers, and that's just at 500 kilowatt. We have a lot of customers that fall below that 1,500 threshold. So that's going to be the thing. Is it's can we sustain 100 more houses going to electric heat? What's going to happen is, and what you'll see in the rates right here, is you're going to take a second look at that on whether you're going to put in.
Well, definitely, I'm just talking about the 1,500.
That's what the intention
The
is.
yeah, so the 1,500, if it's 100 houses, it's not going to make much of a change because there's 8,000 residential customers. So what we're doing is taking all of that hydro energy that the utility receives and dividing it by that 8,000 customers, and that's how we get to the 1,500.
The other question I have is the definition of a customer. Some people have a home and a business. Do they get 1,500 for each, or some people have more than one home, or some people have
The
rental?
1,500 only applies to residential, so that is any residential meter.
Okay.
And it's
So
per meter. Per
Okay.
meter.
Yeah, it's per, on the residential side, those are the only ones that are impacted with the 1,500.
Now, but you know, let's remember that one of those space heaters that you buy at the Price Chopper, you turn that on and leave it on all month, it's going to use about 1,000 kilowatt hours. And it's so easy to put in the electric is what's driving the load growth.
Exactly. When there's other options that are viable. In my situation, I have electric, oil, or propane.
Right.
So electric is a choice. Even at the higher rate, it's a choice because propane has to be $2 a gallon. or less, which now it is, but typically it's more than that, so. If you do have a choice, yeah, it's a great choice to have natural gas.
Right,
That's a
and
great
that's,
choice.
and so the whole point of this is, we also want you to recognize energy efficiency. I have a very old home, and I put in the window covers, and so I actually took out an electric heater out of the one room where I used to use it, just because I did some basic insulation, and I don't need it anymore, because
I had the energy out, the only thing I can do is put a pool timer in, I did that, so I have blown, foam insulation, and the whole 9 yards, all the windows face south, it's a very
Right.
efficient home, but
Well, that's
that's
what-
what I have to live with.
But there you go, that's the point of this whole thing, is we want customers to think about, you know, how they do it, because right now they're not seeing the price signal. I was just asking Jeff before I came up, the average cost of Massena power is only 6 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
It's 17 cents, I think, at
I just
Mac.
calculated mine, it was 5.89 or something like that cents.
Right.
Total, compared to my whole bill to the power I use.
Right, so the utility's actually being hurt because it's selling power so cheap. Anybody else? All right, so then I'm gonna rush. So this information's all in your handout, we only have a few minutes, but what I wanted to show was, these are bill impacts of what we, you know, things change all the time, but just based on looking at what happened in 2014, we wanted to provide you information of what happened to a small customer, large customer, and a very large customer. So this 700 kilowatt hour, this is the average customer. They would see a $51 bill right now. As I said, this is over 4 years, so I'll just jump to the next slide. By the end of this whole year period, it's going to go essentially from $52 to $53 for this small customer. And that's from realigning the rates and realigning the PPAC, and that's even increasing that customer charge from $5 to $8. This is, again, a large customer, 2,200 kilowatt hours. Their bill is going to go from 152 to 174. That's all because of that PPAC. They're going to see much larger increase in their PPAC portion of the bill. And I think that turns out to be about a 15% rate increase. And some very large customer, 5,000 kilowatt hours. This is somebody that's got baseboard electric heat. This customer is going from $338 to $450, so they're going to see a large increase, but it's going to be phased in over 4 years, and it's not, the utility's not making money out of this. They're just taking a bill that they receive from someone else and just directing it to the customers that are using it. So that what the idea is to encourage that customer to do energy efficiency or to look to other energy sources for their heating needs. You know, I heard that there's natural gas lines that are running down the street that aren't being used. You know, so maybe people can do economic analysis of switching to natural gas. This is for the summertime, like Jeff said before, that PPAC is only impacting in the winter, so this is a bill calculation of what would happen to the customer's bill during the summer. It's going to go from 43 to 47, and that's basically that increase in the customer charge. Again, even that medium-sized customer, 124 to 132, that's not a big increase. And for the big customer, 277 to 289. So overall, your bill is not increasing a lot due to the rate case, but it's really what the biggest impact coming out of the rate case is this redesign of the PPAC and directing those costs to those heating customers. This is for industrial customer. You can have different power needs, so we see that they would get a 12 to anywhere between a 5 and a 13% increase. And this is for SC4. Again, they have about the same bill impacts. So is there any other questions? Because it's also 7 o'clock. Okay.